Hey, my friends, just a little tarot curio moment for you to offer some distraction. This is an out of print deck that I just stumbled on, and I found a copy of it online for not a whole lot. So it's the Prager Tarot, which was created by Stuart Kaplan. The Prager Tarot, complete 54 card tarot deck based upon Chaldean astrology and Czechoslovakian folklore. Contains 22 major arcana and 32 minor arcana cards. More than 3,000 years ago, the Chaldeans just carefully observed the stars. Now, for the first time, the 22 major arcana cards are linked to the ancient stars and constellations of the Chaldean astrologers. So, yeah. This, I found, again, it's not used, actually. It's, it's plastic still. Can you see that? You can. But I love kind of fortune-telling decks and things, and, this is an interesting one. Based primarily upon Chaldean astrology and Czechoslovakian folklore, the Prager Tarot deck contains 54 cards instead of the standard 78 cards. The shortened version of the tarot is due to the elimination of 24 pip or numbered cards, and has its roots in European tarot or tarot packs that flourished during the 18th and 19th centuries, when the game of tarot was popular throughout Austria, Bohemia, Germany, Hungary, France, Switzerland, and other European countries. Traditional 54-card tarot decks used in the European game of tarot contain 22 trumps and 32 suited cards. So let's take a look at this, and I may reference this tiny little bookie poo, but it goes into Chaldeans and astrology, and then it goes into sort of the meanings and associations with astrology or Chaldean astrology, etc. I know really nothing about Chaldean astrology, but there's a chart here. So actually, this is a pretty action-packed LW. But you're not interested in that as much as you are the cards, as am I. So this is such an old deck that the plastic is just crinkling away in a very ASMR-ish, or not a very ASMR-ish way. I do love ASMR videos, although I hate when people do Joker ASMR videos, like the Joker as a roleplay. Anyway, let's take a look at the cards. So here's the Magician, and the beveiled Popess. Oh, I like this sort of bald Empress. Oh no, that's hair. I thought that was the back of her chair. Well, we can call it the back of her chair and say she's bald, because that's cooler. What draws me about things like this is just, I guess, the curiosity of them. I do think I'll take a look at the little white book, because it's interesting. Actually, there's also like a little gold kind of metallic thingy here. So Justice is 8. I don't know what it is. I mean, I really I've been trying not to buy much, except lately I've been failing. But I do like kind of an old, unknown, or not very well-known deck for a lot of reasons. One of which is just that I think it's interesting. Now, I wouldn't say this is necessarily a tarot in the sense of being a tarot, but it's not, it's not a tarot. I mean, I guess the thing for me is, like, a tarot is 78 cards, right? Like, that's sort of my basic foundational thing. But I guess I'm less kind of uptight than I used to be about the structure. I think the reason that I stick with tarot as my primary divination tool is that it just really works. You know what I mean? So as I've said before, like, I don't need anything else. And while I enjoy other things, I always sort of return home to tarot. I do love a grand tableau with the Lenormand, but I don't use that for anything else. I've talked about that before. I do read Sibylla. I haven't in a long time, actually, and I just sort of stopped enjoying it, I think. So I just sort of stopped doing it. But I can still do it. And I've taken a class on Oghams that I did not find an enjoyable divination system for me. I think that geomancy is potentially the most accurate divination I've ever worked with. I've worked with some charm casting, and I quite like that. I'm actually about to take a class in reading bones, which is or a version of reading bones, which is a very similar to charm casting. Actually, it's the technique that I think this teacher uses is very similar to the deck I love and forget the name of constantly. The not the Next World, but the Beyond. Why can't I ever find it when I need it? I don't know. I'll try to remember to put the name of it in the description, because it's never in my eyesight. Like, it's never in my line of sight. That's the Margareta Peters. You don't really need to hear me looking for something I can't find. But yeah, it's a Curio deck. It's a deck of curios, bones and stuff. Anyway, sorry. So yeah, I'm going to take that class, and it's going to be interesting, I think, to sort of gather a collection. Now, in this sort of method of reading bones, I think that I'm learning, there are bones in it, but it's not just, that over a lifetime you can kind of gather sticks and stones and curios and whatnot. So there's a kind of cartoony quality to these artworks, which is, to me, sort of reminiscent of childhood. Like, it's giving Schoolhouse Rock artistically. Now, it's interesting here because it says the instructions are by Stuart Kaplan, but it doesn't say who did the art. I'm just looking to see if the little book says anything. I don't see anything on the artist. Interesting. Yeah, anyway. So here we are in cups. So it actually reminds me a bit of things like the Maybe Lenormand, which kind of sort of take a structure or take a thing and then kind of work around it or add to it or adjust it. And so, interestingly, in this deck, we only really get like the ace, 2, 3, and 4. Which, as a card reader, is an interesting thing for me because I do rely on the numbers so much. And what does it mean to remove numbers, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? Especially for me, again, because I am so sort of, I work so much with the numbers, particularly when reading a deck like this that is somewhat pippish. It's an interesting thing. It's an interesting thing to say, okay, because in a way the numbers represent a continuum to me, it's sort of saying, okay, well, nothing happens after the stagnation of 4. You know what I mean? So we sort of get stuck in a rut. And we only, only have kind of 1, 2, 3, and 4 to play with as a reader. But I think there are other ways of exploring things too. I think you can use numerology in other ways, and I'll show you some examples that are just popping into my head as I go through this. So here we are in coins. It's a pretty deck. I mean, I really like the artwork a lot, and it's in great condition. I mean, it wasn't cheap, but it wasn't crazy expensive for an out-of-print deck either. And I could have spent less if I had gotten one that wasn't still wrapped. And I just thought it would be cool, to spend a little more and, to have to have it wrapped for you. Just a couple extra blank cards. So let's shuffle it up, and I'll just sort of see how it feels to read with it as a divination deck. I think. I mean, I hold that you can divine with anything that can be randomized, really. I always used to make the joke to students, you can divine with Cards Against Humanity if you want to. I don't know why you would want to, but you could, So, and I think that's why game pieces, dominoes, cards, obviously, even charms have been used so much, because so much of it is about sort of just taking elements, randomizing them, and finding connections and meaning in those randomnesses. I don't believe anyway that I have an ability to read any other way. I'm not a person who can sort of, I don't have like clairsentience or whatever the terms are. I can't just know things. I don't have just inner knowing. You know what I mean? I have had I once dreamt that I won an iPod and then an iPad, and then I did. But that's probably the extent of my lucid dreaming. I kind of often feel like I'm just not a very magical person, which is a little bit of a self-pity thing, but whatever. All right, I just love shuffling cards, so I could just easily make videos of doing nothing but shuffling cards. So there's the King of Coins. We always know a king generally when he's sitting. So then we get the Magician, the Wheel of Fortune, the King of Cups, the Knight of Swords, the Ace of Swords, the Knight of Wands, the World, and Justice. Now, this is not going to be a particularly fabulous deck, I don't think, for anyone who hates reading with the court cards, because when you take away cards from a deck, each card sort of has more weight. But the way that I would normally read this is by starting with the King of Coins and the Magician. I mentioned earlier, that there's numerology you could do, and the numbers here are very, very prominent. So we have a 1, a 10, an ace, a 21, and an 8. And so I could work with those numbers in each case of the double digits. I would probably reduce them. So we have 1, 1, 1, 3, and 8. So 1, 1, 1 is 3, 3 and 3 is 6, plus 8 is, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14... So I would reduce that to 5, and then I would say that the reading is a 5 on the Richter scale, so that this then, the theme of this becomes a 5 reading, which then becomes about disruption. So I could account for missing numbers in this deck by starting there, and that's it's kind of an interesting thing in just sort of saying, I am going to experiment, I'm going to play, I'm going to do those things in a reading. I think those are totally valid. And you don't erase the other numbers if you don't want to. So, there is 3 1s in here. So, by which I mean the Magician, the 10 reduced to 1, and the Ace. So 1 is a very dominant number. I don't tend to attribute numbers to the courts, but you could do that too. The page would be 11. The queen would, or the knight would be 12. Queen 13 and King 14. I don't do that, but you could. And so I would say this is a reading about disruptions as 5, right? Or unsettlements, unsettle things that are unsettling, or uneven. And that it's very early on in this kind of disruptive thing. And then I could then explore the reading and explore why. I could say that your focus on financial gain, and using dishonest tactics to achieve that is why. And while you feel really good right now, that can change at a dime. You know what I mean? So you feel really like you're on top of the world by doing this sort of dishonest stuff, but what goes around comes around. And actually, you're not as fully armed as you think you are. You don't have quite the tools behind you that you need, but you're rushing out into the world thinking you're doing the right thing, but in fact, you're just not thinking. And there's actually a lovely, interesting connection here, just to me, between the world and the Wheel of Fortune, in that they just look similar. So that's interesting to me, and Justice ending the reading tells me that, you may feel on top of the world right now. Justice is going to come along and hunt you down, enthusiastically, because the you don't have the power you think you do. The power is on the side of law enforcement, not your trickery. And then I could read the columns in the rows. The columns too. So, this magician is very, very enthusiastic, very, very active. So this tells me they're in really deep to this trickery they're doing. This, again, tells me that they feel really on top of the world, literally on top of the world. But again, that instability of the Wheel of Fortune is going to knock you down. And actually, the swords quality here in this column, your sort of joyful, gleeful feeling of a badass is going to get cut by Justice. So anyway, that's one way you could account for missing numbers by adding up the numbers that you have in a reading and then reducing them and then using that as kind of a theme. So that's another thing you could do. Of course, you can do things with the elementals as well. We have a strong swords energy here. We have strong knight energy, strong king energy, given the balance. But because they are, it's strong, but there's only two swords, really. It's not that strong. There's only two knights. There's two kings. So the two-ness of those could tell me, too, that they're sort of being pulled in a couple directions. They're sort of attracted to the work that they're doing, but also not, they're aware that it's problematic. So anyway, I think the thing is, when we read, we may get stuck or stumped by the techniques we think we have to use or that are effective or whatever, but you can dig, even in a kind of non-standard situation, for tools that will let you go in, and you don't just have to use the typical tools. I don't really think about, I have so many pairs of things. I have a pair of swords, pair of knights, pair of kings. But those are there, and so I can take the two-ness of those and explore the two-ness too. So anyway, it's interesting. So it's a lovely deck. I get these things partly because I'm curious about divination history, and partly just because to give me reasons to make videos. But I think this is an interesting. I think it's an interesting one, and I think it's pretty, and I'm glad that I kind of splurged on it. So it's the Prager Tarot by an unknown artist with constructions by Stuart Kaplan, and it is a 1980 deck. I don't know how long it's been out of print, but I hadn't heard of it before. So dig that. So hope you enjoyed this. Take care. Be good. We'll talk soon, I hope.